Fire Brad Stevens at your peril. By the way, if you're wondering why the Celtics moved Brad Stevens upstairs, this is it. Because he would take over for Budenholzer, and the Celtics would have to face Brad Stevens for the next 7 years. That's a different day and a different rant. But, I mean, it's not Budenholzer's fault, nor would it be Brad Stevens' fault if he coached the Bucks, that Chris Middleton is now 13 for 43, and Drew Holiday, who's a very good player, can't stay in front of Kyrie Irving. Good luck, nobody can. Milwaukee does not have the ammo and a very weak game plan. This feels like Tom Brady last year in New England, where he's screaming at receivers. They just don't have enough ammo, and you're trying to beat Kansas City. We say it in the NFL all the time, and it's kind of understood now. Like, we don't even argue this anymore. When all else fails, like, draft a wide receiver. They're just so much more valuable than a linebacker in today's game. If you've got a coaching opening, hire an offensive guy. Yeah, but Sean McVay's only 32. Hire an offensive guy. Just figure it out later. Dak Prescott, $40 million. Half the league thinks makes complete sense. Like, we understand that in football. The rules have changed. It's almost negligence if you don't draft a wide receiver every year. I'd argue 2. I mean, look at what Green Bay not drafting a receiver has done to the Aaron Rodgers-Packers relationship. It's an offensive league. Well, this is what is happening in the NBA. Now, they took the hand check away over a decade ago. You can't use your forearm to lean on guys. But now the game is so international. Basketball is so international. There is an explosion of offensive basketball talent in the world right now, coupled with the defensive limitations. It's a picks and screens. Even if you're a great defensive player, you can't stay on your guy. When all else fails, just draft offense. I mean, KD, Kyrie, and Harden, for the first time ever, a basketball team in the playoffs. The playoffs is where the good defensive teams are. In the playoffs is going to shoot 90% from the free throw line, 42% from free threes, and 50% from field goal range. 2s. That's never happened before. I mean, Trae Young, a flawed player who doesn't really care about defense, is carrying Atlanta. You can't stop Ja Morant. Zion is breaking Wilt Chamberlain's records. Luka is breaking Michael Jordan's records. Dame is breaking everybody's records. And Steph is breaking Dame's records. You can't stop anybody. We understand in football, hire an offensive coach. I mean, Tibbs, great defensive coach. Knicks, great chemistry, great defense. Can't compete in the playoffs. Brooklyn is a poor defensive team. Not even top 20. Irrelevant. We just got to come to terms with basketball right now. The world's best basketball players, and it is a world's game. Money's with the offense. The coaching money's with the offense, the playing money, the bench money, the assistant money. Steve Nash has never coached. D'Antoni, doesn't matter. Offense, that's the name of the game. Get more players. This entire series has been such an advertisement for offensive basketball. I mean, Milwaukee does everything right. They play defense. They've got their chemistry. They've got the veteran coach. They've got health. None of it matters. Just throw KD and Blake Griffin and Kyrie and Harden, although he hasn't played much yet, and they'll just figure it out and they'll win. And I just think we just got to come to terms with it. When Trae Young got drafted, I remember just hearing people, can't play defense. He's too small. He's got attitude. Doesn't matter. You can't stop him. It doesn't matter. I mean, like, there were a lot of people argue Ja over Zion. Can we both make this argument? They're both unstoppable. Zion's breaking Wilt's records. Ja will blow through all of Westbrook's records. So, I mean, I think when you see what's happening with analytics and basketball this is really an amazing thing. Durant and Kyrie Irving, 2 games against the Bucks, 60% from the field, 57% from three-point line. And if you notice this, I noticed it a lot, not only with Steph Curry, but you're really noticing it now with Damian Lillard's out of the playoffs. You notice it with Luka. Is that it used to be when guys hit threes, they were close to the line. They're not even close to the line. They're closer to the logo. And this is what is happening in the NFL, is that young players globally in basketball see where the money is on shooting threes. So that's all they do. Young kids always start trends. Well, it's the same thing in high school football. The great kids all want to play quarterback and wide receiver. California has 39 million people. On average, the last 5 years, 2 legitimate big-time running backs. Each year, 25 wide receivers, 8 top quarterbacks. Everybody comes to California to get the quarterbacks. Michigan does. Pac-12 schools do. Alabama just did. Clemson just did. Notre Dame just did. The California is a culture setter, is a trend center in this nation. The kids here are smart. There's no money in running back. Money's at quarterback and wide receiver. You can't believe how many great quarterbacks and wide receivers there are. And you watch basketball right now and you watch football. The money's in wide receiver, not running back. The money's in offense. Hell with defense. I don't want to hear it anymore. Stop drafting bigs who can't shoot. Stop worrying about defense. Just go get Trae Young. I mean, Milwaukee does everything right. Can't compete in the series, and Harden's not even playing. Nothing Brooklyn has works in the playoffs. Bad defense, rookie head coach, Harden's hurt, chemistry, they never play together. All blown out because they just got better offensive players. By the way, I'm not against it. I'm here for it. The games are fun. Okay, so Chris Paul. Oh, Chris Paul. I don't know if anybody remembers. I thought Chris Paul should have been MVP. But the MVP, like the Heisman Trophy, is overwhelmingly useless. It is about stats. And you know, let's be honest about this, is that in the NBA, you've got to be really good to stars or they shut you out. So Chris Paul's getting old. You don't have to vote him MVP. He's not going to shut you out, but you want to make sure you take care of the stars, all the writers. But last night was a prime example. Denver takes like a 10-point lead in the third quarter. It's the moment. It's the moment. This is where we need you. This is where the MVP step up. From that point forward, how was Jokic? Not great. He's going to win MVP. From that point forward, trailing by 10, Chris Paul went 6 for 6 rest of the game field goals, 3 for 3 free throws, 1 for 1 on threes, led the Suns in points, assists, and led everybody in the building in plus minus. That's called an MVP. Seize the moment. Not about the first quarter, not about the second. And what's really amazing about Chris Paul, and this is not a little thing, it is a massive thing. We all know last year was an exception. Young guys were good in the bubble, right? The playoffs are about veterans. The playoffs have always been about old guys, LeBron and Kawhi and James Harden and Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. That's what the playoffs have always been about. Dame, not about kids. Chris Paul goes to Phoenix. He's playing with kids. DeAndre Ayton's 22. Booker's 24. Cam Johnson's 25. Mikal Bridges 24. And what makes that more impressive, so Jokic has been in the Denver system with the head coach for 6 years. They were out of sorts because they lost Jamal Murray, right? Chris Paul has been in Phoenix 7 months with kids. And add this, in a condensed season. This has been a bad year for practice. Like, this was the worst practice year in league history. Nobody practiced. Guys, you're playing too many games. You know, every other night you got a game. You don't have time for practice. Guys are getting rest. And Chris Paul walks in 7 months. And this is what you get. Phoenix has been a disaster for 11 years. Last 3, it's all the same guys. Like, does everybody understand what he's doing here? 7 months, bad practice year, condensed schedule, bunch of kids, they're great. We so undervalue in basketball intelligence and feel for the game because they're so hard to quantify. It's not a stat. That guy is smart. Prove it to me. He's got a great feel for the game. Prove it to me. I don't have a stat for it. Westbrook's got great stats. But Westbrook doesn't play smart basketball all the time, doesn't have a great feel for the game. Chris Paul, new system, new coach, new teammates, young kids. He not only wins, he wins instantly everywhere. New Orleans, Oklahoma City, Phoenix. He goes to Houston, won 65 games with a difficult at times to play with James Harden. So, I've always had this feeling. The smarter people in the world figure stuff out more quickly. Chris Paul's Einstein in the NBA. You can give him a new coach, a new system, condensed schedule, bunch of kids. overnight. I mean, Phoenix was good 3 weeks into the regular season. He figures it out. Boy, that is smart. That is having a feel for the game, which you can't quantify. That is being smart. And there's no data for that other than my eyes. It's like Tom Brady. When Tom Brady went to Tampa in 2019, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were the second youngest team in the NFL. Old man Tom goes there, synthesizes all of it. Super Bowl. I mean, this is a bunch of kids. All Phoenix's best players are kids. Chris Paul not only glues it all together, he does it in the first month of the season. At Oklahoma City in the first month, he left.